So I think you and I are on the same page on that. I'm tending to believe Kevin and Gary. What about going back to the Hawkeye and whether the airmen on the Hawkeye saw it?
Yeah, so I had a personal interaction with the airman that we're calling Roger. Actually, he's an aviation technician, in-flight technician. And in the beginning, I got some pushback from Paco saying that, no, that's impossible. The only people that are ever on the E-2 Hawkeye are naval flight officers. You don't have enlisted or petty officers on these planes. So I went back to PJ and I did find out that, yes, indeed, there was a training program or a naval program called in-flight technician, where petty officers that were aviation technicians would fly on the Hawkeyes and provide a sort of needed service, which is to identify any problems that might be going on. So these guys were trained in all this, you know, the SAR type waterborne rescue. They had to go through this special training to be able to fly on these Hawkeye planes. And indeed, the gentleman that I spoke to, I kind of checked out his background and did vet him that he was indeed in this program. He did fly in the Hawkeye. So I know that this guy is real. And the reason why he didn't want to come forward was because he said that, you know, according to him, he had to sign some secret, he's had to sign a document right after the incident that said he wouldn't talk about it. So even going out on a limb and even mentioning it to me was sort of a little, you know, sketchy for him. He didn't want his name used. He literally said, that's all I have to say about it. Please don't contact me again about it. And what he said was that, yes, indeed, during the same flight that Commander Fravor, you know, intercepted the Tic Tac, they heard the radio calls through the communication network, you know, with the Princeton and Fast Eagle flight. And at that time, the entire aircrew witnessed one of these objects form up on their plane for a few seconds and then take off. And, you know, I kind of recreated that in my little documentary where I showed what maybe it looked like, you know, based on his description. So he said that when they landed, and he said all 5 air crew in that plane would have seen this object. They were present and they knew what they saw. So he said when they landed, they sat on the deck for 20 minutes in what he called was a hot refueling state. He said it was sort of unusual in a training evolution to sit in your flight gear with the engines running on the flight deck in the E-2 because, you know, number one, you're burning fuel. And if you're going to take off again, that would make sense. It just didn't make sense that they sat there. And then, you know, when they did get permission to shut down, they didn't go to their normal briefing room, you know, the ready room where they might do a normal debrief of their mission. They went to this other area that he described it as a secure briefing room where they were told not to talk about it. And this is allegedly where they signed these documents. We've asked him, does he have a copy? And he's like, no, they didn't give us copies. And it wasn't really a volunteer type thing. Hey, do you mind signing this? It was sign this and don't ever talk about what you saw.